So I am live. Hi to the people already here. I don't know if this came up as like a preview thing, but yeah, so hopefully have a good live stream. Hi to the people watching afterwards. Sorry if you couldn't make the whole video. I'm just gonna get all my things up, so get my nice live stream chat up. Make sure it's all set up properly, and just gonna tweet this out quick. I think I'll just tweet it out. I won't do anything else. If you just made it here, maybe like the video, help it pop up in people's sub boxes. Oh, it nearly went because I'm not using my PS4 to charge my phone today. Steady. There we go. Just gonna tweet it and then I'll be ready. Well, yeah, hope everyone's had a good week. I haven't put out as much videos as I'd like, but I put out that long-ish Tulsi one, so hopefully that made up for it. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the stupid poster thing, because for some reason, it still keeps popping up in all my comments, even on my newer videos, so I'm going to get into all of that. So, live streaming now, come and join. Alright, that's done. So get the chat up. Fix this. Alright, hi Legend Jones, hi Lee, Marquise, Veronica, Mac 20th, yeah, nearly half a year's worth, wow. Great one on Tulsi, thanks a lot Veronica, appreciate it. Evan, it's been long since the first one yet. Hi, yeah, so hi everyone, thanks for joining. Already saying Tulsi one was dumb. I don't know why people are surprised at all, she's not done nothing differently. What do you mean? Yeah, so you have to be purposely dense to try and act like that poster is pro-Nazi at all. But what I find funny, so here's the argument. It comes from the PewDiePie thing, but it also comes from the Tulsi video, because I actually had quite a few Indian people coming onto the video and talking about basically how I was like a white colonialist and I didn't understand India. Some people were saying they were proud Hindu fascists anyway. But basically they're saying that you've got a Nazi poster on your wall. It's right. How can you criticize people like PewDiePie or Modi or anyone like that? And basically, people don't understand. I've talked about this already. People don't understand any context. Is that the context of me having this poster, which was on the front of a sport magazine? I picked it up from the gym, and I just thought, oh, I watched this TV show. Cool to have a little poster because I have, you know, some like vinyl. I have Witcher. I have some other stuff as well. And basically, the context is, I'm not a Nazi. Go on my video. Go on my YouTube. Check out my anti-fascist videos. I'm pretty sure no one who subscribes to me is a fascist. I don't dog whistle fascist. I don't do any of this stuff. So me having this in that context is fine. Not to mention that it's not only a TV show, but an anti-fascist book by a very prominent anti-fascist author. So it's I don't know how much you can read into that someone who makes anti-fascist content and it likes an anti-fascist piece of entertainment somehow uses it as a dog whistle to the alt-right, because that's the type of people I'd love on my channel. It's really crazy and ridiculous, and I don't like. I was thinking, should I just move it so I should stop getting these comments? But I'm like, no, I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna keep it there because I'm not gonna give in to all these ridiculous things. Hi Kennedy, thanks for joining. Yeah, happy 20. Yeah, it's been a long, but the thing is, I did some live streams before, but because I didn't really have a proper audience, I didn't really put them under this new sort of series I was doing. But yeah, it's been fun. A lot of you have been here since the start, like Evan and Mac, Veronica and Kennedy. I think are two have been around here for ages as well. I'm not sure, but I need to go check who was here in the first one. So Eric saying, hey man, I'm wondering if you ever played Hearts of Iron, Europa, Universe. No, I never really played a strategy game. I used to play End War that's pretty much about it. That's Tom Clancy. I'm not really big on strategy. The one that I did like the look of, what's that World War II one? Company of Heroes, I think. I always thought that would look cool. Kennedy saying, have you seen Nico House line about Bernie's healthcare program in defense of Tulsi's and Pete's bullshit? I haven't seen that, but I'm not surprised. Is it basically, if you take away people's private insurance, they're not going to have healthcare or something? Hi Ishmael, thanks for joining. Evan saying in the game he got off by fulfilling socialism in one country by playing with the USSR and crushing the American dream. So you can just play as the different factions during the Cold War, or is it during World War II? Reddy saying, Tulsi said after the first debate that she supports Medicare for all. So I forget if yours included that. She also has always been meeting with the horrible people, trying to tell them they're the best. It's just not you. It's just not. It was not just you who went, oh, I was surprised. Like, really, oh, who gives a fuck about post these people in my life? And that's extremely kind from me. Yeah, the thing is, the people criticizing me with a Tulsi thing, they're like, when you're in those sort of positions, you have to meet with horrible people. And I've said before, I had no problem with her meeting with Assad, because she didn't come out and saying, oh, what a wonderful leader Assad is. But her relationship with Modi is completely different, since she clearly endorses him. She clearly has a history of trying to get him into the US and helping the BJP, and he was banned. Modi was banned from the US for years. And then she puts out tweets where she can, saying about the closeness between them, writing about, namaste and aloha. Doesn't this sort of aloha namaste, doesn't it mean like working together in like a peaceful way? I don't really understand how Modi's all about that when his ideology is inherently pretty fascist, and then all the stuff he's doing in Kashmir as well. So yeah, I think the problem is, even in some of the comments, people are like, well, she's still my second choice, even though she supports like a fascist prime minister in India. And I was thinking that people don't take fascism as seriously when it's not as relatable. And I said this in my last live stream. I know people who said they don't want to criticize things like maybe if feminists don't want to, for example, I was saying I knew someone talking about how great it was this local mosque was welcoming everyone in, and then someone was like, well, what do you think about the mosque? Women have to stand at the back, and she's like, it's not my culture, I can't say anything. I feel like that sort of applies to a lot of these more fascist groups who are non-white, especially something like India, where people either say they don't want to talk about it because it's not their culture, or pretend they don't understand, when it's not really hard to understand. If you guys watch my video, it's pretty clear language, isn't it? Race traitor, invasion from Islamists, Modi talking about 9/11 is Islam planting its fat flag down on the world and they should stop it. Basically all the fear-mongering in India about Pakistan, and all the terrorists being related to Pakistan in some way. Hi Michael, that's annoying, no notification. I think if any of you had the notifications on for my channel, you have to select a new thing, which, because it's a new setting where it only notifies you for certain videos and not everything. So I might check that out if you ain't getting the notification. So Kennedy's saying, I call Tulsi's plan Pete Booty Judge bullshit because he keeps parroting this Medicare for all who want it nonsense, and now Tulsi is talking about Medicare choice. Do you guys think they actually believe that, or they're just trying to stand out against Bernie Sanders and to a lesser extent Elizabeth Warren? So Rayleigh's saying, Nico went off the rails and started freaking out at Dole. So fuck that guy. I told him I was dipping out. Sucks though, he was a good one for a bit. It's like Jimmy Dore. Like, they just become so... Because I think what people should realise is you can evolve your position, because I know people, like Veronica was saying as well in the comments on my video, yeah, I like Tulsi too. And I liked Tulsi for years, and I followed her on Twitter for a long time. So I've known about her for a while, and I always liked her, especially during the 2016 stuff with Bernie. But at the same time, when I researched this stuff a bit more, because yeah, people telling me it was smears, I thought it might have been some smears. But then I'm researching it a bit more. I'm like, how can you warmly endorse someone like Modi, especially when you don't have to? And people saying it was like Obama. Yeah, no, that's not what it's like. So Evan saying in the game you can start in 36 or 39. Felt bad doing it to FDR, but he married his cousin, even though Stalin was married very young women. Yeah, but loads of people back then marry their cousins, didn't they? Like the whole British royal family isn't the Queen is related to her husband at the moment. Oh, Ishmael saying my favourite gaming list on Twitter was perfect. Thank you. I don't think it was perfect. I was trying to think of my like I was trying to think of like the games I might have forgotten about, because obviously at the start of the decade I was 14 years old and I didn't want to forget anything, but yeah, I think it's pretty good. And I can't believe Tetris 99 is in there as well. Yeah, I got my list. Tetris 99, Assassin's Creed Origins, Witcher 3, Mario Kart 8, Battlefield 1, Bad Company 2, Horizon, Red Dead, Max Payne, L.A. Noire, Doom, Breath of the Wild, Skyrim, Assassin's Creed 4, Rocket League. Yeah, it's a decent list. So, sorry, just skipped. So Hearts of Iron is set in during World War II. You can play as any nation. You should try it. It's a really fun game. Is it like one of those strategy games where you don't see anything happening? Like there's no cool animations. It's just sort of like a chessboard with a world map. I should play some of these stuff though. Williamson is better than Tulsi. Changed my mind. She definitely seems less insidious, and when she's wrong, it seems like she's more ignorant. Whereas Tulsi, Booty Judge, and the others seem like, you know, a bit more. There's something going on in the background with their funding or who's pulling the strings. Rayleigh saying, Namaste means the light in me acknowledges the light in you. We are all people. I'd say it to Trump. We are all stardust. We all have the universe in us. Who says that? Is it Cornel West calls everyone brother and sister, doesn't he? That's what that reminds me of. Is anyone else really starting to dislike Warren? Yeah, everyone in the chat, tell me what you think of Warren. To be honest, I think she'd be a good pick for Bernie for vice president, because I think a lot of centrist people would like her. But at the same time, this media hype for her is really strange, especially because in my, I'd say maybe 4 years of closely following American politics and maybe 7 years of following it properly, I've never seen corporate media promote someone who is apparently so against them. It's like if CNN and MSNBC started promoting Bernie Sanders. To me, it's sort of like the weirdness, because that's how she's positioned herself and it's how other people have positioned her. But yeah, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see, does anyone still support Elizabeth Warren? And I definitely support her over Tulsi now, but I'd still be interested. She did clap for Trump saying America will never be socialist, so... Kennedy saying, I'm disappointed Warren hasn't come out defending Bernie from the smears in her name. Yeah, I'm surprised actually. I thought, you know, that viral Twitter video about that woman saying if you support Bernie over Warren, you're a sexist. I thought she'd say, like, you know, I've been friends with Bernie for years. If you support him over differences we have, it's obviously not sexist. So, sorry. Kennedy saying, I think that some Tulsi fans do actually believe her bullshit, but I don't think people are pushing her to do, I don't know what that means. I think people just get caught up in candidates sometimes. It's sort of like a cult of personality. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think when you get so invested, it's hard to admit you're wrong. And what is this crap with being so obsessed with being anti-war? Like, just like it's the merit of everyone who can be more anti-war than the others. For example, the reason I don't like Tulsi is that her anti-warness, if that's even a phrase you can use, doesn't come from a place of, I believe in society should be arranged this way. It comes from the place of, I don't think Americans should be dying in these wars. So it's not that like Bernie Sanders' anti-war beliefs comes from his beliefs in, you know, equality and everyone being equal and everyone having the same opportunities and everything. So that's why Bernie is the example I kept using. Bernie's not going to endorse Netanyahu. He called Netanyahu racist. You could why isn't, you know, the reason Tulsi isn't doing that to Modi is because she doesn't actually care about people in general as much as Bernie Sanders. She cares about being anti-war as far as it goes for US people and US combat deaths. She doesn't care about, general deaths in the world through conflict. So if someone would educate me, I don't know what Tulsi has said about Israel and Palestine, for example. And given her stance on India and Pakistan, I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't have a hardline stance against the Israeli government. Maybe something diplomatic, like I believe the Palestinian. Well, I'd still be surprised if she said anything about Palestinians having self-determination and everything. So Kevin saying, "Hey, Kavanackle, just wanted to say I love your videos. Keep up the great work. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it." I'm just trying to get a couple more videos out. If anyone has anything they'd like me to cover in a video, please drop it in the comments. I'm kind of stuck for ideas at the moment. I'm going to have a little look after the live stream. So Rayleigh saying, Aloha is an acronym I actually really love, saying like we should all love these shit people because we're all people and all together. Some are shit, we should get them not to be shit. It's nice in theory, but I think it's bad because I remember Tulsi was saying on Joe Rogan about her mum making everyone, was it brownies or making everyone flower baskets? I don't know what it was, and giving them all to Republicans. And Tulsi believes in like healing the division, being less bipartisan. But when there's a whole, basically nearly everyone in US politics is full of shit, but when you have one party which is completely full of shit, the Republicans, who don't actually believe in anything, most of them, and you can make them, if it's like strong religious beliefs, throw enough money at them from the donors and they're going to change their views on a lot of stuff. I don't think it's even worth engaging with them. You just got to get them out of office. Kennedy saying, I think most people who strongly dislike Tulsi feel that way because we really liked her at first. Yeah, I agree with that. It's hard to just like say you don't like someone completely after you find out some stuff, but I think that's where I've gone. I think in terms of like fascism, and I know you can maybe like my whole argument is, if Tulsi was the president, I would give her the benefit of the doubt on the Modi stuff because India is a relative ally. She's just a congresswoman. She does not have to say that, but she does goes out of her way to say it. Bernie Sanders is a senator and he calls the Israeli government racist. So, Kevin saying, I find Nico and Dor funny and how desperate they are to defend Tulsi. Yeah, I agree. She's the only non-millionaire not taking PAC money, so I still like her. I get why. Okay, here's a question. I've seen people saying they still support Tulsi. Given the video I made, okay, if I started on this live stream right now talking about how much I love Modi, how much I respect him, think he's a great guy, and then you guys might say something like, well, what about what he's done in Kashmir lately? What about all these Muslims who've been lynched because of his new laws on cows and eating beef? What about really just unleashing this horrible ideology on India into the mainstream? And I was like, no, I still really like him. He's a strong ally. India is better than Pakistan or something. I would be surprised if most of you would stick around. You know what I mean? So I find it interesting. It's not, obviously, it's your own politics. I'm just an outsider looking into your own politics. But when there's something like that, and it's so awful what the Indian government are doing, the same way it's so awful what the Israeli government are doing, how can you still support someone when they won't, if she wasn't criticising India, that's a different story. She's not only not criticising them and not being fair when she's talking about this whole region in terms of Bangladesh, Pakistan and India, she's actively endorsing and promoting this guy. She's promoting a fascist, and I guess the scrutiny's not there because most people don't know about India. And when you have stuff like that report that came out recently about the Indian security forces torturing the Kashmiris, and then you have someone running for president who is endorsing the guy doing this, is that not disqualifying? I know there's loads of different issues, but doesn't that just say something about their character? And the stuff she said, she's talked about Sisi being a strong leader as well. And the Jacobin article, while I don't believe, someone was linking some sources, I don't believe she hates Muslims, but I think she gets a bit blinded in what she supports through her stance on Islamic extremism. Because remember, okay, here's another thing she said. She said Islamic extremism is not caused by economic conditions and things like that. She thinks it's just Islamic extremism is just something that's toxic and anyone can be susceptible, and it's not linked to economic factors. And then obviously she endorses Modi, she endorses Sisi, who are fighters against Islamic extremism. She's kind of given an olive branch to Assad, who's a big fight against Islamic extremism as well. It reminds me of US anti-communism, where you just jump into bed with anyone because they're anti-communist. That's what it reminds me of. And because the US media is so crap, no one's going to sit down and really grill her on this, or maybe she wouldn't even take the interview like you saw with the Anna Kasparian stuff. So I don't really know, but that's my whole problem with her. Like, I don't actively believe she hates Muslims, but remember what she went on Fox News when Obama was president and said the president has to say Islamic extremism. He has to call it by its name. Literally right-wing, propaganda, that talking point. So that's what I'm like super skeptical about. So Stacey saying YouTube politics is too much whining about cultural issues, but little understanding of history or geopolitics. Tulsi would not stand up to neoliberals. Yeah, I feel that as well. The thing is, YouTube politics and politics channels, and I've experienced this as well, because some of my content it's all about clickbait, it's all about attacking the popular people, which is fine, because it's entertainment at the end of the day, but it's harder to engage on a mass scale. I think some people do it well, like Majority Report, and David Patman's pretty good as well. To his credit, Jimmy Dore does try with this stuff. Not that I agree with his takes on it, but he is pretty broad in what he covers, which I appreciate, that he goes outside of, I guess, the Western-centric take, because he does cover a lot of different stuff that you don't hear, which is a good thing for someone who has a big platform. So Max saying Tulsi has ended 2 candidates, Tim Ryan and Kamala Harris. Yeah, I guess that's true. You need a bit of an attack dog. So I don't mind that she's in the debates, but I just don't support her at all. She can go after Warren in a way Bernie won't. Yeah, that's true as well. Dole got called out by Nico for not debating him. It was weird as hell. How do you debate the facts of Tulsi? She says and writes, it's not Medicare for all as we want it. That's not new. What do people think of debates, right? I've had people harassing me on my channel, right-wingers, saying I should debate them, I should go debate this guy, and I said, I don't owe you a fucking debate. I'm not going to waste my time. I can't be bothered, because it's not done in good faith to start with, and whose mind am I going to really change? If I'm doing it on your channel, I'm not changing your mind. If you do it on my channel, you're not changing anyone's mind. So what is the point? It's a waste of time. Apparently that shows that I don't actually have conviction in what I say, because I don't want to, debate random right-wingers on YouTube. So people say I don't even want Warren as VP. When's your podcast episode out, Kennedy? Or is it already out? So Evan said about the game, it's like a world map, like chess, bit of a learning curve, but if you get into it, you won't regret it. It's difficult if you don't already play strategy games. Is there anything similar on Switch? Because that sounds like a game that would be good for the Switch rather than me sitting down in front of a TV. Oh, it's from 3 months ago. Okay. I still like Tulsi more than Warren. I don't, but I don't like either of them. Stacey saying I support Warren after Bernie. She has a better shot than him because neoliberals will do anything to keep him from getting a nomination. Yeah, exactly. I don't support her over Tulsi because Warren is a lying piece of crap who takes money, isn't for Medicare for all, lied about American heritage, and rolled over 10 million from a Senate run, but says no to corporate money. It's horrible. Yeah, but Tulsi also isn't for Medicare for all, and she endorses fascist prime ministers of other countries. I don't really see. I guess it's what you value most, but I guess because I like foreign policy, and the stuff with India is really troubling, especially when it's such a big country and it's going to have such an influence in the world going forward. So Eric saying the only candidate here we can trust is Bernie. Warren let us down. She didn't support Bernie in 2016. Yep. Tulsi is supportive of Modi. Yep. So Bernie's the only outstanding candidate in the race. Like I was saying before, Bernie's anti-war policies come from his own personal beliefs, which are good. Tulsi's come from what it seems like her not bias, but she cares about Americans over everyone else, which people might say is fair enough, but I think it's better to care about humans in general, and I guess that's why Bernie is a socialist and Tulsi isn't one. Um, yeah, Bernie's better for everything. Yeah, really. I'm not saying she doesn't make any good points about corporate influence in politics and stuff, but even Smedley Butler did the dirty work of the U.S. government for like 40 years before he exposed it all. Do you know what I mean? And I think he was doing the dirty work of it even after he wrote his book. So Kevin saying that's the thing. She's not anti-imperialist, as Chapo proved recently. She's a pro-Israel paleo-con isolationist. Not to mention she's okay with Modi in India. Okay, she didn't say anything about Israel then. I'm from what Kevin's saying. Evan saying Tulsi is a true isolationist. It's naive and infantile. The US needs better foreign policy, not no foreign policy. She's a failure in foreign policy. Stacey saying Tulsi is sympathetic to nationalists, so no. Well, you can see why nationalists like her, because it's like bring our troops home, suck up to dictators who are really hard on Islamic terrorism, or Islamic extremism, but obviously it spills into oppression of Muslims in general. Because you see in Egypt, not saying I agree with the Muslim Brotherhood, but what they do to the Muslim Brotherhood, what's his name, who died in prison this year? Morsi? Yeah, Morsi died this year in prison, didn't he? And he got taken over by the army, even though he was elected as the new president of Egypt. Because he's Muslim Brotherhood, he got taken out. And what's interesting about the Muslim Brotherhood is they were quite, not that they're actually socialists, but the similarities with them when they started in the 30s in terms of helping the poor is quite interesting. So Michael thinks Tulsi hates Muslims because of Afghanistan. I think... How old was Tulsi when she went over there, right? Because here's what I can imagine. Say she's in her 20s. You go over to Afghanistan. You've never really been exposed to a massive Muslim country. And your first exposure is these Islamic fundamentalists and the Taliban being really brutal, and then the Afghan army not really being that great themselves in terms of their culture, and then maybe you think for the rest of your life, well, I know stuff like that happens, biases and prejudice, that's going to affect you being in that country for so long, and it might have completely skewed her worldview, where she sees Islamic fundamentalism, where she said it's not a result of economic conditions, it's just a result of this ideology, which I totally reject, because of course you have people like Bin Laden who are super rich and privileged who just adopted Islamic fundamentalism, but the people blowing themselves up aren't exactly just normal people like you and me who suddenly read a Quran and read some stuff online and then thought, yeah, I'm going to blow myself up and tempt myself to paradise. It's uneducated people for the most part. It's super poor people. Like, I just watched that Hotel Mumbai about the Mumbai terrorist attack in 2008. And these people were saying about, one's on the phone to his parents during the terrorist attack. He's like, I don't know if it's actually happened, but he's like, did you get the money from the terrorist group? And he's like, no, not yet. And these people are doing it for money. They're brainwashed by the Islamic extremism, but they're still doing it for a reason, because they're poor. And if you think economic conditions don't play a role in stuff like that, it's just crazy. You can have the belief that it is mainly the religion that makes people do this. Not every poor person goes and blows themselves up for something or kills loads of people, but at the same time you've got to recognise the role it plays. Joe Rogan is reactionary trash. Yeah, I have problems with Joe Rogan, but sometimes he has found a good format, because his podcasts, if you like the person, it is decent to listen to. Like the one with Cornel West I really liked, and the Tulsi ones were okay, and the Andrew Yang one was fine, but he just seems to agree with everything everyone says. So Rayleigh's saying Tulsi's aligned with Bernie, anti-BDS, and I agree in a two-state solution, but if you support BDS, they ban you from the country. That's really weird, because tons of UK universities support the student unions support BDS. It's like really popular in the UK. I don't know if there's maybe because a higher percentage of our population are Muslim. I don't know if we have more Palestinians in this country as well. So Evan saying, Cav, I would love you to cover some Irish politics. Do you have Catholic or Protestant heritage? I'm an IRA sympathiser now, and I'm keen on your views as you are Irish and history and stuff. Yeah, so I was raised Catholic, Catholic parents, Catholic grandma. All my grandparents are born in Ireland, all Catholic. On my dad's side, I'm related to a guy called Sean McDermott, who was one of the basically the planner and the leader of the Easter Rising in 1916, and he signed the Declaration of Independence. Basically, he was executed for that. On my mum's side, my grandma says that her brothers are in the IRA. I haven't really spoken to her about that, so I do have some links to the old IRA, like 1910s and 1930s and 40s, not this new IRA from the 70s onwards. In terms of covering Irish politics, I did the Boris Johnson video, but Northern Irish politics I'm probably better familiar with because it's UK, but actual Irish politics, outside of the token issues like the abortion debate and stuff, I'm not as familiar. I obviously know a bit about the parties, but someone was doing a good job of educating me, I think, last week on it all. As if I'm an IRA sympathiser, I wouldn't say I'm an IRA sympathiser in terms of I really want violence in 2019, but I can obviously sympathise with the cause of the IRA, and obviously Sinn Féin is the political wing of the IRA essentially, and what is their goal? To get unified Ireland, get the British out of Ireland, which is something, yeah, I'm totally fine with. I'm not like a unionist at all. I think, well, I'm a unionist in the sense I want the union between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland to happen one day. But people who talk about Jeremy Corbyn and the IRA are disingenuous trash. People who act like the IRA didn't have any grievances are trash. People who act like the British soldiers didn't kill loads of Irish civilians themselves during the Troubles are idiots as well. And the UK government at the moment is a joke, trying to get all these war criminals from Northern Ireland off, and then saying you can't be prosecuted after 10 years of committing a war crime. What's this crap they're trying to trot out at the moment? So yeah, not technically like an IRA sympathiser in that I love terrorism, but I think people got to recognise there's a point that you get pushed to terrorism. It's not like, and everyone has their different reasons for, but in Ireland's case, but most of the time they're using terrorism to get their aims, and it works essentially because is anyone calling the Republic of Ireland a country founded on terrorism? No one says that, but it essentially is, because that's how they got their own country. But it's interesting, when the terrorists eventually win, you don't get called terrorists anymore. So Algerians as well, Algerian independence was found on the back of terrorism as well. But when you actually win, you don't get people saying, oh, Algeria, country founded on terrorism, Ireland, country founded on terrorism, because the narrative completely changes. Whereas when you lose, you just get painted, and because obviously the powerful people, whatever the cost is, it's like, well, you were the terrorists, you were just the bad guys, and we were the good guys, and that's how you can frame it because you didn't win. But now you can't frame it that same way if the country actually goes into existence, because I guess if you concede all that ground, you were kind of working a compromise, maybe even sort of coming around to their reasons for fighting in the first place. So Eric saying, cover the rise of China. I think that'd be interesting. You could also cover the Hong Kong protests and the historical context with the British. I've made a couple videos on China. I made one on Taiwan and China, and I made one on Japan and the US, which had a lot of Chinese stuff in it. But yeah, I could maybe do one on Hong Kong as well. I love you, Cav. Is that all right? Thanks, Legend Jones. Support Kashmir. The Kashmir stuff is so complicated, but if you read about what India specifically are doing, it's just fucking awful. Tulsi's really sorry, I'm so behind the chat, by the way. I've been going off on tangents. Tulsi really got leftists defending Indian fascism because Kashmiri women can't own property. It's colonialism and it fucking sucks. Yeah, I don't understand this. In Palestine, right, you obviously have a problem with Islamic fundamentalism as well in terms of Hamas and other groups. Doesn't mean you got to support the Israelis, because in Israel, Jewish people have a more secular and free society. I don't know what kind of shit that is, but yeah, it's an apartheid state where only Jewish people basically have rights. But because they treat gays and women a bit better than the Palestinians, that means what they're doing is fine. So the same with Kashmir. Max saying, I don't really care about India all that much. Warren has voted for the military budget increase. Never goes against establishment of foreign policy. But you just don't. I don't know if I totally agree. Well, I don't agree with that, because it's like me saying I don't care about Americans that much, so fuck you. You deserve Trump. Fuck those Hispanics on the border. Shouldn't have come here. Not not Americans. They're not British. Who gives a shit, really? Like, you getting put in a cage. Like, where do you draw the line if you say you don't care about someone, or just anything? Okay, a load of Afghan people killed in Kabul by a suicide bomber. Fuck them. Who really cares? That's in Afghanistan. Not my concern. Do you know what I mean? I get, to an extent, there's more pressing issues at home than some country that I might not ever go to, and I've never been to, and I don't have a connection to. I can understand that, and I can understand, especially if you have more trouble in economic concerns and healthcare and everything. I get, why would I give a shit if Tulsi's the best candidate for X, Y, and Z? Why would I care if she supports a fascist prime minister? But to me, I just think it says a lot about a person that you'd be okay to do that sort of thing. And I don't know. But yeah, I get what you're saying about Warren, the military budget, because it's the degree of separation, I guess, because you could say, well, Warren votes for the military budget, and what does the military budget? It ends up in the hands of people like Sisi, and his black sites in Egypt where he tortures people with the CIA. It ends up in the hands of loads of dictators who do awful stuff. Just because Warren doesn't have to go out of her way and say, I support these dictators, doesn't mean she isn't supporting them. So I do get that as well. But to me, it's just, maybe I'm too, or it's not hardline. I'm not very forgiving when especially when you read about this stuff. You want your candidate to condemn it. It's like if you watch those videos that always put on Twitter, the viral videos of what the Israeli Defense Force do to the Palestinians, and then would it sit right with you if your candidate was saying how great Netanyahu was? I don't know. So Michael's saying, Cav, sometimes looking at US politics is looking at UK politics. You mean they're quite similar? Because at the moment they are, because we've got our own fucking Trump. Since people believe Tulsi, Warren, and Bernie are similar, can you make a video on the differences between them? Thanks for the question, but videos like that are always hard because they have so many policies. I guess you can make it in broader strokes, but especially focusing on free people might be hard. I'll keep it in mind, though. So Reddy saying, the USA is awful. What we are doing, please watch Iraq for sale and realise what Tulsi saw, is all I'm saying. I think she hasn't changed. People are just choosing to see her differently now. If she hasn't changed, it's more troubling, I guess. But yeah, I will try and watch that documentary. Kennedy saying, any leftist in America doesn't base a lot of their vote on foreign policy, then holy shit, you're not voting for solidarity of the working class. Well, that's how I feel as well. Because at the end of the day, nations are just, lines on maps, and I'm not going to stop caring about people just because they live in a different country. Like, it's interesting what we care about. People get up in arms about Hong Kong, don't get up in arms about Kashmir or Palestine as much. People get up in arms about, or don't get up in arms about the Uyghurs in, is it the Uyghurs is how you say it, in China? And I just read something that they might be getting their organs harvested. It's just crazy, disgusting shit. But like, it's at one point it's the Western media doesn't care, and that largely dictates what people care about. That's why in 1984 suddenly everyone started caring about the Ethiopian famine, is because it caught on with the media, rather than lots of these other things don't ever catch on. No one really knows about them. Do I think with Modi's ideology and his ambitions, he could revoke the first strike nuclear policy? Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I did say in my video, people do speculate it could be one of the only instances where you could have a limited nuclear war between two countries without it spreading. I don't know how much I believe it, but it's an interesting thing. I don't think he'd use nukes, but at the same time, it's a bit of a stalemate, isn't it, between them, because they both have them. Even though the Indian army is probably larger. Am I related to Kavos? Yeah, the YouTuber. I don't know if you're still here, AB. That was like 20 minutes ago you asked that question. I'm really behind. Did you watch the Fuzi fight? Yeah, I did, because Kavos was streaming it. It was quite funny, to be honest. Getting battered. That guy is a nutcase. Lee, if I see one more video saying somebody destroyed or eviscerated someone else, I'll scream. That always happens. Ben Shapiro destroys leftists with facts and logic. But even the Young Turks have started doing it. I guess it works for the algorithm, maybe. So Evan thinks David Patman has peaked liberalism. I think response videos are incredible, useful for political channels. They're good for the algorithm and getting popular, but do a debate with these people it's moderated by a third party. The Serfs offered to moderate one between me and Sinatra Says. I just can't be bothered, to be honest. It just feels like a waste of time. I know it could get me exposure, but at the same time, I don't know, it's annoying. Rayleigh's saying you don't own anyone's shit. It's so they can degrade you. It's not like it's a big news media. Yeah, exactly. David Dull is really good. He doesn't get enough credit. Yeah, he follows me on Twitter, but we've never really spoken about anything. But yeah, he's pretty good. But to be honest, I don't watch too much politics YouTube. I know it's bad because I am a politics YouTuber. Mainly on YouTube, I just watch gaming stuff and Young Turks for the news, just because it's quite digestible. So I've been following all this Trump stuff with the Young Turks because it just makes it nice and clear for me. Hi 47, thanks for joining, even though that was ages ago. Back up, Tulsi is actually for Medicare for all. Well, she's been backtracking on it lately. Like people have been saying it's comparable to Mayor Pete. Sorry. Oh shit! Just skip forward. One sec. Tulsi loves torture. She changed her mind on that, didn't she? I'm pretty sure. So not one Medicare for all bill has faded out private insurance, which is supposed to be the gold standard. So people explain this to me properly. So what I'm gathering is private insurance we banned totally, right? Is that really what is happening? It's not like the UK where you can get private insurance. You're just totally banning private insurance. I guess I can understand that in this context because if you are doing that, because in the UK, not the US. The US is a massive problem, isn't it? Because of opioid epidemic and all these doctors pushing these horrible drugs. Whitey Bulger. Why are you talking about Whitey Bulger? What do I think of left-wing nationalism? Oh, thanks for the donation, Rayleigh. I appreciate it. I think you donated twice. Thanks a lot. I gotta go. Agree with Diaz. Please cover Warren and how different she is from Bernie. Her daughter is for Big Pharma. She's bought to get endorsed by Hillary soon as fuck. Okay, I'll consider that this week then. But yeah, I appreciate the donation. Thanks for contributing to the chat anyway. Hope you have a good week if you're going off now. Sorry, I'm catching up with the other comments now. I just read that quick because I saw that she was going. Union plans that are better than what Medicare for all covers. But doesn't Bernie's one even cover dental? I couldn't imagine too many unions do that. It sounds like a Joe Biden talking point. So Kennedy's saying left-wing nationalism as a centre of anti-colonial struggle in developing world was super good. Oh, okay, sorry, Evan. I missed that question. What do I think of left-wing nationalism? So basically, I don't know if you could argue that IRA in the early days had left-wing nationalism. I think it's good to a point, and I think in Cuba they did it during the Spanish War before the Americans basically made it a colony. It's good to a point in terms of maybe rallying people around some sort of idea, and I think it worked a lot. It works better where the population are relatively homogenous, unless your society is quite diverse. For example, if there was left-wing nationalism in Britain, where you could maybe take London as an example, be like, we're very diverse, but we all adhere to these similar values, and that's what makes us British. So that could be some sort of left-wing nationalism. But I think in a lot of countries where the diversity isn't so, I don't know, I'd say like places like London and New York are pretty good for diversity. I'd say there's lots of places that aren't great, even though they are diverse. I think that's the sort of problem, is you've got to construct this sort of image that might not be very inclusive. But yeah, it's good for the revolutionary stage. I don't think it's good when you actually get into power, because you see somewhere like Ireland, it just went to total shit when the Catholics got into power in the Republic. It turned into such a backwards country, because it turned into the whole thing like Irish Catholic, we must be very, conservative, we must really follow this religion properly, and it was crap. And in terms of social values, even in terms of just general social values, England would probably be a more modern place than Ireland was, because Ireland was fucking backwards for 40 years, maybe even longer, when the people who led the IRA got into power. Despite a lot of their ideals, especially in the early days, being quite revolutionary, and people argue that it's quite socialist as well, so... I wish I got to your video sooner, because I missed the majority of it. I'm probably still going for a while, Brenda, so don't worry if you just got here. So I'm just catching up now. I'm really behind. Mark saying, Afghan army not good. They're really bad. They're a bigger threat to themselves and the population. I read somewhere that they still keep child sex slaves, and they don't actually do anything about it, the US, because they don't want to upset their allies, which is fucked up. It's like a cultural thing, apparently. Max saying, I got into a Facebook argument with some idiot yesterday who said we need to be in the Middle East to stop another 9/11. And I asked him if he knew who attacked us on 9/11. He said the Taliban. It's like my master's thesis was a survey on if the media, not so, is basically if the media can make people pro-war, and it's obviously not all conclusive, but what it really did highlight is most people don't understand the difference between Iraq, Afghanistan, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and I don't know why, because I can obviously speculate why, because if you get raised in this climate where it's just never-ending Middle Eastern war, you just see a bunch of guys with AK-47s in the desert, and you're like, oh, that's all the same, probably. There's obviously nuances. For example, while the Al-Qaeda and Taliban work together, Taliban are tribal, they only care about Afghanistan, and they're Pashtun as well. In terms of their tribal code, it a lot of the time goes totally against Islam. So I think the sex slaves might be part of, I don't know if it's Pashtun tribe, but it's part of some sort of cultural thing in Afghanistan rather than an Islamic thing. And there's plenty of other stuff as well. Like Max said, the guy said to him, you're too young to remember. Well, if you want to cause another 9/11, you can go around all these places. But the thing is, I don't agree with people like Hassan Piker who said that the US deserved 9/11, because I hate this sort of these leftist hot takes, because that doesn't even make sense in terms of what happened, because 9/11 was done because Bin Laden hated the US because of Israel and because of Desert Shield. And, for example, the first Gulf War was backed by nearly every country at the UN, including the Soviet Union, and they supported the US intervention there. And then, if you want to get into the Israel stuff, okay, we can get into it, but most of the world, or most of the Western world, support Israel's right to exist, as does the US, and that's why 9/11 happened. If you want to make a more general point, that Bin Laden was also responding to the US colonialism in the Middle East and things, so that's fine. But his primary reasons for starting Al-Qaeda and hating the US weren't because of the US foreign policy in general. It was because of the US foreign policy, but I mean, it's not in the way we understand it in terms of it's not about them going into countries for oil and stuff like that. It's more general foreign policy, which Democrats and Republicans both did. And, you know, would Bernie Sanders have done the first Gulf War? It's an interesting question because it is such a popular war. I would be interested to hear what he said at the time. I'd imagine he'd be against it, but at the same time, it was broadly supported by most countries in the UN. So, Evan's saying you should try and set up debates with the Yang Gang and talk to people. I think that'd be a good way to grow your channel. Well, the Serfs are doing some debates lately with the different leftist people, so maybe I'll talk to them about it. Brenda says she's supporting Bernie. Feel the burn. I think most people here are. Kevin saying Andrew Yang is a capitalist trash with libertarian UBI. Eric saying for love of God, not Yang. No one Yang, says Jose. Evan saying I have to do a video on Irish politics with P.W. Morrison. He only has 4 subs and he makes good content. Is he Irish? Wait. I actually might have seen this guy before. I don't know if he follows me on Twitter. Let me check. P.W. Morrison. Huh. What's his channel called? I can't... P.W. Morrison. He's not coming up. Alaban saying I think the UK should give back the North of Ireland. Yeah, I agree. Cav name, very Irish names like Saoirse O'Malley Kavanagh. Well, I'm Conor Kavanagh. So that's pretty Irish already. So I think it will be Irish enough. And my girlfriend, well, I'm not going to say, I probably won't say her whole name. Not that I really care, but it's not a choice for me to say it on this stream. But her name is very Irish as well. So even if we use both names for our kid, it's going to be extremely Irish name. So Eric saying, I learned from a political sociology professor that terrorists are usually people who tried diplomacy and when they kept failing, they resorted to violence. Yeah, that's interesting. I think in terms of the higher ups of these terrorist groups, a lot of the time I would say that might be true. I'm more talking about just a general rank and file. If you watch some of the documentaries about the people who go from the UK to join ISIS, like it's not. Some of them are normal people, but it's not like these people have a great education and have a great life. It's like manual labourers, people working like chip shops and shit like that. It's nothing great. So Evan's saying don't agree with British imperialism. In Ireland's case, terrorism is used strategically in most cases as an economic bombing campaign. Yeah, that was later on. Early it was targeting civilians, definitely. I support the Easter Rising. Yeah, Easter Rising, all that early stuff I think is totally fine because the British occupation was way worse. Especially like during World War I and stuff. Michael, it is interesting. I last stream or 2 streams ago, I pulled up the population things, and I think it's by 2030, or maybe earlier, that Catholics in Northern Ireland are going to be the majority. Duke saying, I talked to a Tulsi stan today, and she started defending Modi and said he's protecting them for Sharia law. I don't know how India, with, what's it, like, over 1 billion people, and most of that billion are Hindus who control a lot of the government. I don't know how Sharia law is going to take over India, but there are 200 million Muslims in India, but they are dwarfed by the Hindus, so it's like the same people who say Sharia law comes to the UK when it's like 80% white. Just sink the UK and give Corbyn the crown. So wait, let's get going a bit. I'm sorry, I might have to skip a couple comments just because I'm so far behind. So Duke saying still supporting the fascists is disturbing. Yeah, I agree. Would Tulsi want to put Muslims in camps too? I wouldn't go that far, but I think some people just have this thing where they just dissociate when it's another country. Uyghur Muslims. Okay, thanks for correcting me. PD Morins. Hi Ian, thanks for joining. PD Morins, not PW Morrison. PD Morins. Oh, does he follow me? I saw this guy the other day. But he'll just make me look dumb because he probably knows so much more about it than I do. I don't know what I'll add to his video. Yang also has support. Yeah, Yang has some weird, like, right-wing support. And when he tweeted about gay rights the other day and people, like, tone it down Yang and stuff because obviously they're supporting him for the free money because they're greedy fucks. Sorry, oh shit, I just skipped a load of comments by accident. Here we go. Who do I think is the worst Democrat in the race? I don't know. All of those ones that I can't remember the name of. I think Max said Tim Ryan. That John Delaney, he was the worst. What was he, like, CEO of a health insurance company or some crap like that? Private will cover non-medically necessary, like plastic surgery. Okay. Bernie's Medicare for All says private insurance can't cover anything that Medicare for All does. It doesn't actually ban private insurance. Okay. Okay, I hope they're saying the same thing. That's interesting. So it's different from the UK then. Alaban, what I don't like about Jeremy Corbyn, I don't think there's enough to make a video on. Why are the Lib Dems evil? Yeah, I could. I still focus my content towards Americans though, because it just does better. Even though I do British stuff sometimes. Eric saying, I view all forms of nationalism as the dog going for a walk. Let it explore around, but the moment it starts getting aggressive towards others, tell it to heel. Yeah, but I think that's not the way it works, because once you let the genie out of the bottle in terms of nationalism, it's hard to put back. Like, you know, Germany or Ireland in the 30s, it can turn into such a shit show. And I think it works. It seems in recent history to always go bad when you push this nationalism in the government, because nationalism is, you have to construct this view of your nation. I was trying to explain it to my sister today. She asked me what fascism was, and I was like, what a British fascist would look like is someone who thinks that Britain should just be for white Protestant people who have their roots historically over generations here. It shouldn't be for anyone else, and I might use violent means to get rid of all these people. Essentially, that's the form of British nationalism. Where I said you could maybe have some left-wing nationalism if you take somewhere like London and talk about the diversity of it all and our shared values that make us, I don't know, all linked together and all that crap. I just don't think that appeals to as many people, because white nationalism or right-wing nationalism just targets things that are easy to understand for dumb people, like your problems. Let's make England great again by making it like it used to be. Let's make it more white, more Christian, all that sort of shit. And I think that's easier for a lot of people to digest, rather than trying to construct something and being like, is it even nationalism if you're saying, you know, it is, but I guess it's harder for people to grasp because of the differences between people. So Evan's saying left-wing nationalism is a good thing, the same way people have been discriminated upon due to their race. It means they can put pride in their race as a result. People can still pride in the country because they are discriminated upon as a result of their nationality. Yeah, I guess like I'm saying, I can understand how it could work. I just don't think it ever does work that well. Yeah, and Kevin's sort of agreeing with me, saying it can lead to excluding weak groups like immigrants, and Duke saying it creeps him out. Eric saying, hey Cav, if Bernie gets elected in the US and Corbyn is PM, do you think the Western world as a whole will finally end their support and funding of dictatorial regimes? The thing is, the way the Trump supporters view the deep state is wrong, but it's not like there isn't a deep state of, like, financial interests and all these types of things that do influence politics a lot more than what people realise. So Corbyn is in an easier position where he can break more support away from these regimes, whereas Bernie can't, because obviously he's at the head of a superpower competing with other superpowers. So it's not like I'd expect Bernie Sanders to turn around and be like, we are breaking off diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia for good or anything like that. I guess I would just expect him to stop helping them with Yemen and maybe stop funding them. But even that, I don't know. Because the president does have a lot of power, but the president doesn't have a lot of power at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see. You have to be quite realistic with these things. I think Corbyn can do a lot of the things Bernie doesn't because the UK is way more relevant. So Eric saying, I imagine the results of a survey involving Iraq, Afghanistan, Al Qaeda come up with 3 responses. First one, bomb the shit out of them. Don't bomb the shit out of them. Where the fuck is that? It depends what country. But the only good thing about the survey that I did, it was interesting to see pretty much everyone was anti-war. It's amazing how much that's caught on lately. It's pretty amazing. Even in the US, to some extent, that something everyone can agree on is that they don't want to go to war anymore. And I think that's a good thing. Because through to World War One to Vietnam, think of just how many people were sent to their deaths, and there's hardly any backlash from the public about it. But now, there's just such a massive backlash. And I can't believe Britain still went to war in Iraq after the backlash here. Biggest anti-war protest this country ever seen. It was like 2 million people in 2003 protesting against the Iraq war. Mental numbers. I think it was like more than 1 million in London as well. Yeah, patriotism is a kind of more sanitized version, isn't it? Like nationalism just sort of takes that and makes it worse. So if you don't like it, get out, basically. That sort of language. Nationalism means to the detriment of other countries. Left-wing nationalism is detriment of oppressive countries. To be a left-wing nationalist is like saying that you don't want the proletariat to succeed at the expense of the bourgeoisie. Okay, I'm gonna understand that a bit more. Let's read it again. Yeah, I agree with Jose. He's saying it's going to take more than Bernie and Corbyn, but it's a good start. So Antilles saying, the leftists who pulled the US reserve 9/11 pissed me off so much. As an American, I hate my country's actions. But guess what? The people in there didn't fuel US imperialism personally. Yeah, I guess Hassan explained himself, saying he didn't literally mean the people in the towers deserve to die because of what the US government has done. But I still think he was wrong on everything about it. Because you can maybe make an argument that you push a certain regional group too far and expect a backlash. But I think before the war on terror, Al Qaeda, I just don't think there's a good argument, really. I hate this fucking country, and this is what made me think patriotism is bad in all cases. I think patriotism is for centrists in a lot of times because it's this view that no matter what, we're all British, we're all Americans, we can all come together for the greater good. I just don't believe that at all. This country at the moment, the way people are so blinded, even liberals who are like Remain and everything, still, like Lib Dems, perfect example. Lib Dems are the only group who won't back a Corbyn emergency government. Even rebel Tories are thinking of doing that. It's just fucking annoying. But it just shows you a lot of they would consider themselves patriots, but not really. It's patriotic to us. It's like centrist nationalism, I think, patriotism to a certain extent. It's like inclusive, but I think it misses the fucking point as well of a lot of these things. So yeah, I'm not patriotic about this country at all. I like some certain things about this country, like the humour, some of the funny cultural quirks and everything. I wouldn't say I'm patriotic at all. I couldn't really give a shit, to be honest. I hate the Queen and the royal family, even though I find it super interesting. I just hate the idea of it, and I hate the government. I hate most political parties. But yeah, I don't mind living here. It's a fine place to live and everything. But still, I'm not proud of being born here, especially considering what this country has done to the country where I'm actually, like, my blood and family are from and everything. It's hard to reconcile being patriotic about a country that's literally built on genocide and stealing the wealth of literally a third of the world, and it's never really apologised for it. It still doesn't teach history properly. It's like this whole stuff of the BBC. What's her name? The presenter who said that, basically just said Trump is racist, and she got disciplined. And someone said they want black faces, but they want black voices. That pretty much sums up the fucking UK to me. It tries to be different. That sums up patriotism to me as well. Tries to be all inclusive, but doesn't actually want to challenge itself on the actual issues. Evan said, on the issue of nationalism, I'll say that I don't believe in nations and nationalism. There's a danger of putting too much focus on nations rather than people. I don't believe in borders. But people have been discriminated against because of their nationality, and therefore left-wing nationalism has to be used to instill justice. And then Kennedy's saying we should mandate plastic surgery under communism. Everyone has to be hot. I would never want, like, any surgery, to be honest, to make myself look better. It's bad enough getting medical treatment for stuff like you can't control. I don't want that sort of stuff for just something that comes from vanity. So Red Leader saying, on the topic of leftists trying to adopt patriotism and American exceptionalism, I was reading a solid book on Tom Paine, but it lost me in the last chapter when the writer essentially used the... Sorry, did you finish this point? Used the fact that Paine is a part of that history and that the American experiment was a unique at the time as a justification that we should be proud and we can be decent. Yeah, I like that point in terms of you saying liberals have adopted this. I think the Young Turks are guilty of this in terms of stuff I watch. It's that Republicans and Trump aren't really America. The spirit of America is about being inclusive and tolerant. And like I said this before, like the Constitution of America is a fine document, and it's a good one to probably base a country on. But you just got to remember the context of who wrote this document and what they actually meant with their words as you try and go to... Because I think the problem with the US, mainly with its racism problems, it's never really reconciled what it was built on, native genocide and African slavery. And you see the backlash. Trump is just a part of that backlash that shows you, because of... I guess it can be traced back to Reconstruction after Lincoln was assassinated. Just... these old attitudes just haven't gone away because it hasn't been forced to go away until recently. I mean, you see a fucking massive backlash, and that's Trump is part of that backlash against trying to address what the US has actually been about for its whole history. It's harder as well when it's the most powerful country on earth. Kenny's saying there's things I like about America. Waffle House at 2 a.m. Jose said he likes your country and its history. I hate this country for what it's become, but I like this country for the potential it can be. Yeah, that's a good thing about for what it can be. But I think with stuff like Brexit, it reminds me that most people in this country will not be part of some great future where we're all super tolerant. They're the ones holding us back, and there's a part of the country which is just better than the others. But like I'm saying, I made that video about, do people have a free will when they're voting? I feel bad because I live in the most privileged part of this country. I live in the most rich part of this country, the part that's never really been neglected. So who am I really to say that I'm better than someone, because I haven't grown up in the climate of a poor part of this country with nothing going for it, bad education, no job prospects, you know what I mean? Sorry, just checking up. Okay, yeah, sorry, I missed the last part of your comment, Red Leader. So people trying to use the fact that American promised to be good as a justification for nationalism. So Eric saying, I remember my surgery for wisdom teeth. Of that experience, I don't want to go to surgery again. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Even though I haven't had surgery yet, I hopefully never will. Subjectively, good looking is subjective. I think Cav is pretty good looking. Subjectively, I think most would agree. um, Speaking of this, actually, okay, thanks for the compliment. But I read a really interesting Reddit thread. It was about it was an Ask Reddit, and it said, "What do you find attractive about the opposite sex that you wouldn't admit?" And it was super interesting because what someone was like, "I like girls with like really crooked teeth." A lot of them were like, "I like girls with, I don't know, certain flaws in their body, like big noses." And it was really interesting to read. It's like, "I like guys who are really short," and it was interesting because it's like, obviously, like Ian is saying, good looking is subjective. Obviously, as well, you have I guess, the more stereotypical people, like, for example, it's quite shocking if you actually listen to girls talk about boys, how shallow they are in terms of height. And like, I thought that was a stereotype, but after hanging around girls and they're talking about the height of boys, it's a stereotype that holds a lot of truth, to be honest. So there's obviously that sort of thing, like guys like women who have, I don't know, big bums and big boobs, because I guess in your more primal state, it's about a woman who looks like they could have more kids or something like that. That's like the sort of chemical attraction. But in terms of like all this other stuff, it's interesting, the weird quirks all these people were talking about, which I totally get. Some of them are really weird though. And I was like, one was like, what was I thinking? I can't think of this one, but there was one I was really like, that is so strange. But loads of people were like jumping on saying they believed it as well. Who's my favourite Prime Minister from history? I don't really have a favourite Prime Minister, especially from history, because it's kind of hard to agree with someone's politics from like 200 years ago. But two people I really like, Gladstone and Disraeli, and their relationship is so interesting. So for those of you who don't know, Gladstone was Prime Minister 4 times. I'd say he's probably one of the most legendary Prime Ministers. And he had such a political evolution. This is why I really like him. He voted against making slavery illegal. But by the time he was dying, he was the main person pushing for Irish Home Rule. And this is before people were talking about Irish independence. Even the Irish just wanted Home Rule at this point. So Home Rule means Ireland controls its own affairs while the British control its foreign policy and other parts. So yeah, super interesting guy. And he was like nearly 90 when he was Prime Minister last. And he left the Conservative Party and he joined the Liberals, like helped found the Liberal Party. And he was Chancellor, and he was super bright person. But like big Scottish Protestant as well. And then you had Disraeli, who was Jewish, but he changed his name from Israel to Disraeli. He married an old woman, a rich woman, who then died and left him a massive fortune, sort of like what Prophet Muhammad did. And then he entered politics, and he was super flamboyant. He worked his way up. He was just such an opportunist. The Queen Victoria absolutely loved him and was so upset when he died because he was just so charming, even though he was a Tory politician. He's a super interesting guy, though. And he actually did a lot of reforms for the poor, but not because he actually genuinely believed in it. It's because he wanted to win the election. And he actually helped with the Voting Rights Act because he thought it would help him win the election. It didn't. He lost. But when he became Prime Minister, he said, I've reached the top of the greasy pole, basically. That was all he wanted to do. And his foreign policy is interesting as well, because it's all about, think of the most cynical take you can think of a politician, and it's this guy. But it's something to be respected about someone who pulls himself up, because obviously a Jewish guy in Britain in 1860s, not many people are going to like him to be Prime Minister, but he sort of got out of it. He was an author as well, actually. He wrote a lot of books that were quite popular. He started off as an author. But yeah, two, not favourites, but two very interesting ones that I like. Some other ones, in terms of interesting ones, Anthony Eden is super interesting to me. He was Foreign Secretary during World War II, but he was one of the youngest officers in World War One. He fought for 4 years in World War One, met Mussolini, met Stalin, met Hitler before World War Two, served with Churchill during the World War Two, and then he was Prime Minister when he succeeded Churchill after he resigned because he was just getting old when he was Prime Minister in the 50s. And then obviously he oversaw Britain in the Suez crisis, then he resigned with really bad health. But he's super interesting as well, even though he's a shit prime minister, but interesting character. So yeah, there you go, there's your answer. Three people for you. Sorry, I missed a couple of comments. Oh shit, I'm trying to see where I went wrong. Nuke the Bush White House. Oh yeah, I don't remember reading that, but maybe I skipped it. Crap. I have gone on some tangents because I have not seen these comments. Or did I just... Okay, I'm sorry if I missed these. I think my comments, my chat just skipped. So I'm going to go back to some old ones. Jose, what the hell are you going to do when Mr. Robot's finished? I don't know. Maybe I'll allow myself to cry for once in my life. Oh, sorry, I missed all this stuff about saying who the worst Dem candidate is. I apologise. I think it just skipped it on my chat, which is annoying. Red Leader says he wants to see Bernie talk about the CIA. Yeah, I just think Bernie's trying to stay uncontroversial at the moment. Red Leader, no point in talking about how much he respected Fidel Castro in 2019, do you know what I mean? How do I view Neville Chamberlain? Yeah, it's actually interesting now. I was thinking about this the other day, because I've been watching Peaky Blinders. I think people, he gets a bit of a bad rap, but people don't understand the context of Britain in World War II, because 800,000 British people died in World War II. Insane number for the country at the time. So we have, I think, 60 million people live in Britain today. I'd say probably half. Let me check. I say population of Britain 1914. So 36 million people lived in the UK in 1914. 800,000 British people died in World War II. I think of like the millions more who were scarred by the war. And then think of your generation who've gone through that, growing up, and you see another massive war on the horizon, and you want to do everything you can to stop it. So you think if you appease Hitler, you won't have to go to war and have a new generation of people be slaughtered like your generation were. And obviously all the psychological scars your generation have gone through. So yeah, I understand it through that context. Obviously what Hitler was doing, probably should have known a bit better, but can you imagine that? Like, especially the British conflict in World War One, it's just insane. Stuff like the Somme, 20,000 people dying in like an hour. It's just absolutely unheard of. That's nearly half the casualties of America and Vietnam in 1 hour. Insane. Can't imagine being part of that generation. And literally, pretty much everyone fought in that war as well. And you just went off to be slaughtered. Everyone watched the Peter Jackson documentary on it. It's so good. They Shall Not Grow Old, is that what it's called? It's great. Okay, I just missed like a couple, so sorry about that. Max saying Waffle House at 2 AM is alright. Denny's anytime is never right. The McDonald's where I live just started saying open till 12. No, till 2 AM after it closed at 12. That's the only thing we have. Kevin saying breast thighs and arse for women. Yeah, just stuff like that. I think it's in like human nature. Short kings rise up. But girls can be short, which well, I don't mind. Tall girls for me, because Max asking how tall am I? I'm 6'2", so that's all good for me. But I'm not Ben Shapiro at all. Ben Shapiro, isn't he like 5'4" or something? Yeah, at football on Saturday, just like booting the ball up to me so I could head it because I'm tall. But seriously, like when I'm playing football, people on my team are so tall. I feel small playing. My dad's like 6. My brother is 6'3", and then my dad's like 6'4". So is my granddad. So tall family. Did I see the video of Ben Shapiro swimming like a 2-year-old? No, that sounds funny though. So John Brown's final note to his guard on David's execution is still relevant. Who's John Brown? Am I an idiot for not knowing that? But he said the crimes of this guilty land can never be purged away with blood, but with blood I had now, as I think, vainly flattered myself without much bloodshed, but might be done. especially when you have the right wing in power in America, it's never going to be really, it's never really going to reconcile with its awful history. Jose saying, if you can archive a conversation where whatever you'd like to talk about could be available and recording for others to look up and draw things to learn from a subject, what would you talk to and what would the subject be? If I could archive. Okay, so I think I understand the question. Yeah, that's interesting because I'm trying to think. There's plenty of stuff I could talk about, but I'm trying to think, is there stuff I could have a unique insight on that would be. I guess I'd like to talk about something historical and its links to the present. Maybe something to do with colonialism, like British colonialism, racism, and what it's done to the world. I think would be an interesting thing I'd like to talk about. Like maybe the links and how colonialism developed from something maybe more capitalist focus and maybe just about, you know, old school imperialism, like you think about Francis Drake and crap like that, fighting other empires for resources, and how with like the slave trade and going to India, how it developed into this sort of white supremacist sort of ideology. I think would be interesting. Yeah, if that's a good answer for you. And Tilly's asked me, who's my favourite historical American politician? If we have to go politician, I'd probably say Bobby Kennedy, and that might sound a bit weird because obviously I talk about how much I hate elitists and stuff like that. But the thing with him, I don't know why I like these stories so much. I like people who change a lot, maybe because I think I've changed a lot. So Bobby Kennedy was a lawyer, obviously Bobby Kennedy, son of Joe Kennedy, brother of JFK, so comes from privilege. He was a lawyer for Joseph McCarthy, and he helped prosecute basically the Red Scare. But by the time he died, he'd evolved so much on his politics. It's just super interesting. So he was talking about legalizing marijuana. He had a debate with Ronald Reagan in 1967. He talking about how celebrity is taking over American politics. Kind of ironic because it's him, but I guess he is a celebrity because his family's in politics rather than he's just a celebrity like Ronald Reagan, who's a Hollywood actor. And he's saying we can't take these people seriously. We can't, you know, lose style over substance. And obviously that's happened with Reagan and Trump. And really taking up this mantle for civil rights. And Martin Luther King died, making this great speech when he died, like off the top of his head, doing one. And look it up. It's really good. He tells the audience at this rally that Martin Luther King has died, and just hearing the shock, and he's so articulate. So I really respect him. And he's made great speeches. There's one I really like. He makes a speech to his university students, and he's saying, you've been born in America, and you haven't done anything to earn that. You've just been pure luck. You've been born here. That, you know, you could have been born in Brazil. You could have died as a child because there's awful poverty and child mortality. You could have been born in the Middle East and you'd be facing this war. You could be born anywhere else, but you've been born in the most privileged country in the world, and you should use this to do something good for the world. And, you know, despite all his flaws and where he came from and his family, I think the message is super interesting, and I think it's more interesting because of where he came from. So yeah, that's probably one of my favourite American politicians. I like people like FDR. If we're talking about American political figures, Martin Luther King would obviously be one of them, and not just like the stereotypical, I like Martin Luther King because he thinks racism is bad or some crap like that liberals like to say. So yeah, hope that answered your question. Greasy polls can be greasy polls can be fun. So Eric saying, I was thinking about on Shapiro's review on his shitty novel. Someone did a review of that, didn't they? Was it Jose, the YouTuber? I give him I give him a lot of credit for that because I could not be bothered to read a whole book by someone. Is that Jordan Peterson? There's a film coming out about him, some like documentary. Fuck watching that. I might do it for a video, but it's going to be a struggle. Alex saying, Cav, thanks for your insight on Tulsi. I've donated to our campaign in the past, how I've been on the fence about our policies lately. Oh, no problem. Appreciate you watching. Roman Armenian soldier of Odin. I'm skeptical of your name, but Africa's future is colonial. China will take over. This is a fact, not an assumption, mate. Well, it was already been taken over by colonialists for most of its modern life, but yet China does have a big influence there. Worst candidate is Biden. Yeah, I agree, Mac. Worst candidate in terms of like awful policies. Everyone else is just generally like weak and shitty, but yeah, he's awful. Yeah, I'm not too sure Red Leader and Tilly's. I think I've been brainwashed by the propaganda as well. But Eric saying, I think Chamberlain was fucked over by Lloyd George at Versailles. Another great war was inevitable when the Allies punished Germany. Yeah, it's the French as well, though. I think people need to remember the French just wanted super harsh punishments because, you know, why wouldn't they? Because of the recent history of the Franco-Prussian War and then World War One. So many French people died in the war, obviously. Funnily enough, America wanted Germany heavily punished as well. It's probably because my lecturer at university, one of the Marxist ones, he did a really good lecture about America coming out of its isolationist foreign policy, and he's saying the reason it joined World War One wasn't some sort of, which I never really believe this, wasn't some sort of thing where it's trying to adhere to its ideology of freedom, stopping German imperialism, being anti-imperialist. It's more like they saw Germany potentially win the war, and Germany. What people forget, Germany nearly won the war in 1918. It's not like World War Two where there's progression of from 43. The Allies start winning the war. In terms of World War One, it was really right into the last year, and I forget what the offensive is called, but it's when the Germans. It's after they beat Russia, they come back and they need to take Paris, and basically America got involved because they didn't want Germany to be a new superpower because they were thinking about their own interests. So it was a super interesting lecture about it, but they just got involved because they kind of saw like the British Empire as something to prop up more because it's more compatible with them because of the language, and also they wanted to be the new superpower, not Germany. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. China would do worse things to Africans than we ever did. China is super shitty, but do you think China is going to do what the Belgians did in Congo? Yeah, Michael, but wasn't it? It was a victory, but wasn't it like a, what's the word? Is it Pyrrhic victory? It's like it's a victory, but you really haven't gained much, and so many have died. So Kennedy's 5'3". That's not so bad for a girl. I think my girlfriend's only 5'5" or 5'6". Charles 6'5". You should play in the NBA then. I don't know if I believe you. Duke of Buzz only 5'8". Yeah, for boys, it's not that. I think I'm not saying this, but I don't care how tall boys are. But I think over 5'8" is fine. I think. How prevalent is anti-Semitism in England today? I made a video about this, about the anti-Semitism thing in the Labour Party. I'd say anti-Semitism is probably most common in right-wingers, and not just... So you got white right-wingers and Islamic ones as well, and more people who have a bone to pick with with Israel. So in terms of the Labour Party, a lot of the instances of the anti-Semitism have actually been from some of the Muslim members, and it's not because they actually hate Jews, but they just buy into a lot of the stereotypes about Jews when they're criticising Israel. So one was called Naz Shah. She basically said every Jew should leave Israel and go live in America because America supports them so much. Obviously, she's advocating for ethnic cleansing. Don't think she's the brightest person because she didn't actually realise that. I don't actually think she wants ethnic cleansing, but they get so wrapped up in that stuff. And obviously, right-wingers just hate Jews historically, especially white Christians. The Chinese are 10 times more evil than us Europeans. Have you not heard about the history of the world for the last 200 years? What China's doing at the moment is really shit. I don't think it really compares to what the US and the UK and France and Belgium have been doing for the last 200-300 years. Short people live longer. Is there a study for that? I don't know if that's true, but women also live longer. which is bad. John Brown was an abolitionist. He led a militia and was hanged after he after his failed attack on a federal depot. He's amazing. In fact, the battle hymn of the Republic is based on the song John Brown's Body. He was essentially the rallying cry of the abolitionists. Many regarded him as a time, even before the wars, as part of that lit. Oh, okay, that sounds interesting. So he's in the mid 1800s. This guy. Haha. Everyone is shorter than me, apart from Mike was the same, and apparently Chol was 6'5", which I don't really believe. Kennedy's gonna live to 200. Ronald Reagan was not only an actor, he was a fucking scab. Yeah, Ronald Reagan was absolute trash. MLK was one of the greatest Democrat socialists in American history. Yeah, if you get into what Martin Luther King was actually about, it's so good. That's what my video was about a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? It's basically the image people sold of him isn't the reality of what he was. Bernie did 20 events today. Oh, really? Where is he at the moment? When I think about the history of socialism in America, that's when I get a little patriotic. Yeah, it is crazy how the Cold War really gave the right wing such a big ideological boon, I guess. It really saved them. Like Eisenhower, for as as good as he was for history, all this shit he introduced about God, Red Scare, all this crap. Odin asking me, I already spoke about this. I just talked about why do people not care about the Muslims camps in China. China's obviously super dystopian and awful. I already spoke about this. Yeah, it's crap. I mean, I don't want China to start colonialism in Africa. I'm not even saying that. But I'm saying it's rich to say what China are doing at the moment is somehow equivalent to centuries of what the British have done. And what the British and Americans have done has led to some of the biggest problems in the world right now. So India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, it's a direct result of divide and rule. It's divide and rule is a tactic all these colonial powers used, and it has the results today. Israel, Palestine, direct result from that. Syria right now, direct result from that. Iraq is all this stuff with Iraq is directly resulted from the British and French actions in the Middle East. So yeah, Ireland and Northern Ireland is all about British colonialism as well. So you saying about China is worse somehow. China is more insidious at the moment. The stuff it's developing is super scary and awful. I wouldn't say China is at the level of this is so much worse than all of us. Let's feel superior to them. And we also carved up China for 150 years as well. Yeah, Duke of Bud, I've seen that all the time. It was in my video. I had a little post that said Martin Luther King was a Republican. Mental. Also, you have Dave Sir Rubin said that MLK would be conservative. Well, that's what inspired my Martin Luther King video, was Ted Cruz talking about how much he respects Martin Luther King. Ted fucking Cruz. You think Martin Luther King would have liked you? Yeah, Eric, I'm not sure which one it is. It's in Battlefield 1. It's St. Quentin Scar when you play as the Germans. Alright, see you later, Duke of Bud. I think I missed you now, but thanks for joining the stream. Pride Victory, okay, yes. Jay Atkinson saying, cover Jeremy Corbyn's conference speech because no one is doing it and it also needs to be seen by more people. I didn't watch it either, to be honest. I watched maybe a 1 minute clip. I highly recommend reading Eugene Debs' speech to the jury as a sedition trial. He brings up a lot of hate monger about Germany that fueled the US involvement, the factor that is not mentioned often. So who is Eugene Debs? Also, they had the Zimmerman telegram that was it the Germans sent to Mexico to attack the US. What I think of Vosh or Vash or whatever the hell his name is, I don't know too much about him. He seems fine. I know people hate him for some reasons, but yeah, whatever. Leftist streamer, he seems fine. The average height in the NBA is 6'8". Oh, okay. I mean, Michael, it's been quite good to Africa in that it's given them loads of loans and built infrastructure. I don't know how good it's been for the actual Africans. It's been good for the corrupt African government. So, KSI or Logan Paul? Logan Paul. I hate both of them though, but I hate KSI. He also has beef with my brother as well. So, I have a relative who worked in the Reagan administration. What level did they work at? My auntie's husband was a guard for George Bush Senior. Even though he doesn't have an American accent anymore, he has a British accent, which is weird. Okay, Ian was joking about Bernie doing 20 events today. I thought you meant like smaller events. Didn't he. How many did he do in August? I was reading something that was quite interesting. Red Leader saying, Eisenhower makes me sad. He was so anti-war at times, and some level he was more peaceful. I'm torn on him because he could have been great. The man gave us the term military-industrial complex, and he ended up fueling decades of expanding it. Yeah, Eisenhower's interesting. Obviously, thankful to his leadership in World War II, and for a Republican president, he's not the worst, but he did a lot of shit still, like most Republicans. Also, Bay of Pigs, his administration's idea. Vietnam, his administration started. Although he didn't help the French in Vietnam as much as they wanted. They wanted him to start bombing the Viet Minh, and he didn't do it. So, I guess that's something to his credit. MLK was a peaceful man, but he kicked Ted Cruz straight in the balls. Sorry, I missed. Okay, Santa Queen and Scar is a Kaiser Slat, so yeah, Spring Offensive. Red Leader, what rank are you on Battlefield 1? I need to start playing it again. I've nearly maxed out all the classes. I just need to max out Assault and I'm done. My pride is not unlocking the Hell Regal because I'm not a noob. He was the ambassador to Canada. Oh, okay. Ted Cruz, a Canadian, Cuban, US citizen. Why is KSI worse than Logan Paul? Because he has beef with my younger brother. And I just respect, in terms of the boxing thing, is what I think he was talking about. Red Leader saying, Eugene Debs is the most successful socialist in American history. He's Bernie's hero. He is still the best third-party candidate. He's arrested for sedition and then ran from jail. Oh, okay. Interesting. I never actually heard about him, so thanks for that. Kennedy also saying he was a socialist labour organiser. He arrested for running for president 5 times, the last time from jail. Oh, sick. He did a vid on Debs recently, I know from that Pain book. Oh, okay. He's not my uncle Mac. I don't really know. He was in the US Air Force as a guard. That's why he guarded Bush. And he is American, but his accent is British. I don't know. It's just weird. Maybe I don't know if he was born here. I don't think he was though. I need to ask my dad. Roosevelt had issues, but did some great shit too. Yeah, but the thing is, Roosevelt. A lot of his issues stem from being a product of his time. Obviously, he's an old man during the 1930s. Obviously, he has some racial prejudice, which he did, but he did so much good stuff as well. I think it kind of overrules it. Red Leader, I'm rank 60 or something. I'm falling behind because I am terrible as a sniper. What rank am I? I'm 100, I think, or maybe 100 and something. I just use the Lee Enfield without a sight. Or the Lebel is the French one. I love the bolt action rifles, although I do have I have like 2,000 kills with the Lewis gun. Which one is it? Lewis gun with the grip and the sight. That's my best weapon. But yeah, fucking love Battlefield 1. Probably my favourite shooter. Drink time. What are you drinking, Michael? I'm drinking some Monster Punch thing. Izzy, do you have notifications on for my channel? Because Michael said he didn't get a notification for the stream. But I'm probably only going to do another 15-20 minutes because people are going to bed in my house. So I do. Oh, okay. Yeah, so people, if if you have notifications on, maybe check afterwards or check now whenever you get some time. There's 2 things now you have to tick on the bell, because now it says sometimes get notification, and then it's like always get notification. So you need to click both of them now, which is super annoying, because obviously if you've gone through the trouble of putting me on the bell, you'd expect to be notified when I have new videos or new content, which is frustrating. YouTube is so dumb sometimes. Even though thankfully I've got back in the algorithm in terms of I'll actually appear in your sub box now, because if you don't make videos for a week, you go out of the sub box, which I found out when I was on holiday. So I'm happy I'm back in it. I'm drinking a Marini, which is vodka mimosas with olives, out of a plastic bottle. Oh, classy. Okay, follow the man on Twitter. Yeah, I post it on Twitter as well. So, Izzy does follow me on Twitter, though. The Tabernacle, on everything. I had no 2 things on the bell, only off and on. Alright, let me have a look at this. I'll just go on a random channel. See if I can find it. So, Easy Allies. I think it's on mobile. So wait, let me go on my iPad and try it. So, is there anything people want me to make a video on this week specifically? I'm trying to think. I might make one on SJW, the term, not actually being a real thing. Wait. Okay, so on mobile, when I click on the bell, it says personalized or all. Like you can change it. So I don't know if it's on. I'm gonna go on my settings quick on my account, see if it says anything. So settings, notifications, and okay, mentions. Okay. All right, so you can go into the. All right, so there's a setting. If you go into your notifications, I'll see if you can see this. You go. There's something that says you can manage your notifications, right? So here's my subscriptions. So you click one, and it comes up with personalized, all, or none, and then it says here include creator posts. So when I post on the community tab, you'll get notified as well. Just if you want to check that out. Yeah, but yeah, apparently they changed it. So ding my dong. If you want, you don't have to get notified. Sorry, I left the chat. Let's go back. All right, here we go. So do a video on why politicians should have beards. Should they have beards? In Ted Cruz's case, no. Marquis saying good idea. I think this might be a good idea, so I'll do the SJW one, I think. Hi Cav, I'm doing a major in international relations. What made you choose it, and do you find most interesting about the subject? Are you doing it for your undergrad, and what else are you doing with it? So, what do I like most about international relations? I like the broader focus, and I like focusing, maybe contextualizing the politics a bit more, and you get to learn about lots of different stuff. So for my international relations, we did China, we did the economics of the Middle East, we did the US foreign policy, we did stuff about the media. So just very varied. So I liked it a lot, and the good thing about science is just the more theoretical side to it, which I thought I wouldn't like, but I actually turned out really liking, and I think it's really important in the end, because with history, you don't get the theoretical context of it so much, because you're mainly debating the historiography and the facts, and you leave the theory behind, and I think it's really, really important to know both. So I'm really happy I did it, because obviously international relations is political science, and you also said you're doing modern history, so I think they complement each other really well. Is he saying do a video on impeachment, and even if it dies in the Senate, how the act in itself is needed. Yeah, maybe actually that's a good idea. Because I believe I agree a bit. If you do want an SJWs, make sure to look into the Tumblr community on them, because it's a real clique of people. The problem is when people shovel left-leaners into them. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'll try and look into Tumblr stuff, even though it's really foreign to me. I talked about last week, I was like, how can someone like me be an SJW, but also someone who, like, the things I focus on, for example, in my channel, then someone who focuses on, I don't know, people who like really heavily into LGBT rights in terms of, for example, I'm even though I'm pro LGBT rights, obviously, I'm not very good at knowing the nuances, the science behind it, and everything. And obviously, people are, and then there's people who are more about like looking at issues for the prism of feminism and everything like that. And obviously, why I'm a feminist and socialist and everything, I don't do that as much. And then there's other people like Peter Coffin who look at, like, I guess, entertainment in the world through this whole prism of socialism, which I don't do either. But it's interesting that we're all called the same thing. And obviously other things, like I'm super anti-religion, like hardline anti-religion. I don't think many like SJWs are normally that. And I'm also someone who criticises Islam a ton. But the difference to me, I guess what makes me anti-SJW, makes me an SJW to them, is that while I always criticise Islam, I also criticise Christianity and other religions just as much. So apparently I'm either a traitor or I hate the colour of my skin, which I get a lot of the time, because they can't take the fact that I'd criticise both of them rather than just criticise Islam and act like Christianity is somehow better. Alex saying, why do I think the American people are so ignorant about losing their private insurance? I think it's the insurance companies and media propaganda. What do I think? Yeah, you're exactly right. That's it. I guess change is just generally scary, but Americans have been so brainwashed that they think somehow the medical system's the best, so they don't want it to change. And Joe Biden talking points of, these guys fought for their medical coverage, I don't want to take it away, but you're going to replace it with something more expansive and better. Impeachment hurts Trump no matter what. Yeah, because his crimes will be in the open. Ding my dong, no thank you, I'm British. It's what Angry Joe says about the notification thing, so... Yeah, I need to finish my Biden takedown, but it takes a lot of research. Dems versus Dems, British view on Bernie versus Warren, compressive Warren takedown. The Warren takedown is harder because I'm not super outraged about her. I just don't want her to win, and I want Bernie to win. In terms of Tulsi, the Tulsi stuff made me mad because she's just a massive hypocrite. And I know Warren is a massive hypocrite too, but I mean, as someone who makes a whole thing anti-war and then endorsing these people who cause war is just why I wanted to make a video on her. Max saying, if Democrats don't impeach, it's only going to help Trump. He'll be seen as innocent if he doesn't get removed, which he won't. I think the Young Turks are saying, like, lots of people who don't follow politics think he hasn't done anything because he hasn't got really called out for a lot of it properly. So, yeah, that's a good point. Oh, what's happened? There hasn't been a US president with a beard in so long. It's really sad. Facial hair helps make several old places easy to remember. Who's the last one who had a beard? Like an actual beard, not a mustache. Did Teddy Roosevelt had a mustache, didn't he? It was a style in like the late 1800s. Maybe someone I've never seen a picture of, like McKinley or some crap. Europe and China you're studying. Okay, nice. Two good choices, especially China. After World War I, all the beards disappeared. Kennedy was a very popular Tumblr SJW. So, did you actually call yourself an SJW? Is that what the thing is? Is he saying, I doubt impeachment will help Trump, he has committed crimes, and then the inquiry itself will uncover a lot more. The Trump stuff at the moment is absolutely mental. Yeah, Mac, you're right about the angle of the Democrats. Like Nancy Pelosi saying, let's only focus on Ukraine. Apart from, he's literally making his own government stay in his foreign hotels to make him money. That's impeachment enough, don't you think? Include everything. Kennedy can outwoke anyone in this chat. I guess you can. People like Coldplay and voting for the Nazis, you can't trust people. But no one listens to Radiohead and votes for the Nazis. Because they made a song about the Iraq War, which is really good. Well, not Radiohead, Tom York specifically. I got a question actually, just before, I'm not gonna wrap up just yet, but is there any artist or singer who actually makes good political songs? And I won't accept Bob Dylan because I think Bob Dylan is rubbish. Marvin Gaye kind of does politics in some of his songs. Well, okay, of course he's dead, but I mean, some of his songs are quite political. I'm saying Radiohead are quite good. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I don't really listen to many political bands, to be honest. Rappers are generally a bit better, I think, with this stuff. Oh, sorry, I hate this chat. If you talk about Trump's obviously corrupt business conflicts of interest and the war crimes, then that'd be a good start. I think there's no point doing the Yemen stuff, despite a lot of was it the Senate who had a majority voting against the Yemen war. I don't think that's going to fly just because it's just like standard foreign policy for the US, isn't it? Is he saying, I'm glad you did a video on Tulsi's true colours, and Warren is also following the same path going against Medicare for all. Yeah, it's interesting how they're all doing it at the same time. I don't know if it's some sort of strategy to make them stand out. The real problem is SJW versus Social Justice Warrior. SJW is a club. Social Justice Warrior is someone who believes in fighting for social justice. No, I just think SJW is just a smear now. Impeachment helped Clinton once he was not removed from office. Yeah, but Clinton didn't really do anything that bad. Warren is stealing Bernie's base and lines, so there should be outrage. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it hard sometimes. I ironically call myself fat. Like, people use it as an insult. I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds dope. Oh, okay. And SJW is something people identify with, literally a club. I think I might still call it SJW though, but maybe I'll make a, make sure I'll make it clear what it is. Harrison in 1893 was the last president with full beard. Wikipedia has a list that divides between mustache, sideburns, and beard. Did Ulysses Grant have a beard? In my head, he does. I'm not sure if he did, though. The Democrats don't want to go after the corruption aspect of Trump because it will set the precedent for the future that they could use against a corrupt Democrat. Yeah, I never thought about it like that, to be honest. I guess it could. Just don't vote for a corrupt president, like Joe Biden, for example. Pelosi, after being voted out, needs to be investigated for inactions. And Trump, she sounds like scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Well, it's like Cenk Uygur always says it's like a club, isn't it? Like, they're protecting themselves even though they might have differences. The GOP only looked like retards for impeachment on an affair, different situation for the crimes of this guy. Yeah, that's what I think. Insane Clown Posse. I haven't listened to them, but I'll take your word. Nancy Pelosi is doing her best to turn a blind eye for the status quo. Yeah, that's what we're just saying. Tupac. Yeah, like the rappers are pretty good, aren't they? That's a direct quote from Peep Show about Coldplay voting for the Nazis. I should have known that. I posted a Peep Show clip on my Facebook today. Not Peep Show, a Mitchell and Webb clip. Pizza Gear, The Coup. Okay, I don't know any of these ones, so maybe I just need to expand my taste. Cardi B is politically active. Yeah, huge money support. Bob Marley, Woody Guthrie, Bob Marley, Stranglers, 1975. We didn't inspired by We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joe. Okay, interesting. My Chemical Romance has some communist songs. Oh, that's good. American Idiot is a great album. Yeah, Green Day, okay. I'm not from that generation though. In terms, that sounds weird, but like 1990s, some of their songs are okay. Obviously, I heard them a lot when I was younger. Grant had my favourite beard. Okay, I was right. Not super long, but it was nice and consistent for a long time. Even his last day, his beard game was on. Yeah, it was good. My Chemical Romance whole last album is basically Amazon bad. American Idiot is from 2004. But aren't Green Day from the 90s though? Like the album, the early stuff, or like Yeah, like Green Day in the Simpsons movie. So I remember. Dookie. That's the album I got on my phone. 1994. Been around for fucking ages though. Eric saying, do I think when China becomes the most powerful country with a huge population power, they could potentially be more harmful to the world than the US? Yeah, Eric, I was talking about this before. Like, obviously, like I hate US imperialism, but if I had to have a choice between US, but Russian or Chinese, maybe I would choose US just because in the future, the stuff, to be honest, they're all so bad, it's hard to say, but because the US has possibly some accountability if they reform their political system enough, whereas Russia and China have no accountability, and the super insidious shit like social credit, which you okay, I'm not gonna get into running circles, but yes, you can make an argument. There's some social credit aspects with capitalism anyway, but expanding that type of crap around the world is just super bad. So, yeah, I think China is the worst. I think they're all awful though. To make it clear, I like saying, I think religion is a cause for more wars than anything else. Yeah, there's other reasons, but religion is a massive cause of it, isn't it? They're popular in the 90s and 2000s. You're older than me, so you're definitely in that generation. Yeah, but I was born in 95, so I guess I grew up with them around. I do remember American Idiot when it came out and hearing it on the radio all the time. Same with like stuff like Eminem. American Idiot did have one derogatory word in there played over and over. I like that song, but I can't blast the truth of that. I just like Basket Case from Dookie because in Mr. Robot, when Elliot's imagining the future, they play like a lullaby version of it, and it's sick. And I didn't realise it was a Green Day song until later. Alright, homies, I'm on my way to see English Beat. Oh shit, Ian, I forgot your fucking picture is Super Hands from Peep Show, and that's why you're writing all this fucking crap. US is more tame in its appearance compared to how Europe used to be. It's different though, Jose. It's neo-colonialism where the US has its strings or pulls the strings through capitalism rather than having direct control over everyone. I guess it's more tame in that regard, but it doesn't need to be how it used to be either. Metallica gets political. I don't listen to much Metallica either. I want Ireland or Cuba to be the biggest world power. I don't want anyone to be the biggest world power. Yeah, Mac, I think you got that wrong about Ireland, to be honest, man. Ireland isn't one of the most fundamentalist conservative countries in Europe. It's the stigma around it. The Irish population are way less religious than you'd believe. Northern Ireland is actually worse than the Republic of Ireland. You know, abortion isn't legal in Northern Ireland. It's legal in the Republic now. So is gay marriage. But gay marriage, of course, legal in Northern Ireland as well. But if you want to see conservative countries in Europe, Ireland's nothing like Hungary, for example. So the abortion, yeah, Matt, it's just the what's the word? Ireland has a lot of laws left over, which are really crap. Night, Michael, thanks for joining. Which are really crap. So they overturned the blasphemy law in Ireland. Obviously, it hasn't been enforced for years, but it's just left over. So if you're talking about the Irish government being conservative, yeah, it is a conservative. It also has a gay prime minister, but he's from the Conservative Party. So I wouldn't at all say Ireland is in terms of the country is conservative at all. I'd say some of the laws left over are conservative, but compared to the Republic of Ireland is better than Northern Ireland, definitely. So I'd say it's wrong to say it's one of the, especially if you're talking about Europe. Think about Eastern Europe and some Central European countries. So much worse. But Ireland's been doing it, legalised gay marriage and abortion within a couple of years. because they finally put the pressure on them to have a referendum, and obviously having a gay prime minister, you're not getting a gay prime minister in Hungary or Russia, for example. The singer Poppy, I don't think it's good if you can't tell if they're left or right though. When did the UK legalise gay marriage? 2013, and it became law in 2014. So yeah, Ireland's not even that much later in the UK in that regard. Odin saying, do you think the next financial crisis will cause wars in Europe, like racial and anti-Semitic wars in Germany, Italy, and are Jews in danger in Europe? Russians are extremely anti-Semitic. I don't think the next financial crisis will cause wars in Europe. I did say something before about, I think, a big war in the Middle East, which will cause a new refugee crisis, and a financial crisis could cause fascism to come back in a big way. And Jews specifically, I don't know about that, but obviously anti-Semitism is still a thing. But yeah, I don't think it will cause wars in Europe. I think in Europe it's just Ukraine and Russia is the big one. Max saying, I looked up immigration standards to get into Ireland. It's ridiculous. You want to retire there, I had to be making 50 grand a year, even though I'd be retiring 100,000 for a married couple. I think the UK is going to be similar soon. It's going to be you're going to have to make £30,000 a year to come and work here, and you're going to have to make £35,000 to become a British citizen. So I think it's not out of the ordinary. It's because you're from the US though. If you're from the EU, it'd be a lot easier. But that's what we're going to start doing to everyone, which sucks. Well, Red Leader, we already had proxy wars in Ukraine, like, was it 5 years ago, 2014? Russian-backed militias and Crimea stuff as well. But that's the point of that's the thing, because the point of the EU is you don't have wars, but the thing with Ukraine is it can't join the EU because it's being held hostage by Russia in a lot of ways in terms of its energy, but also sucks that Germany and England get a lot of its energy from Russia as well. So Kennedy saying, I'm pretty sure Poppy is left wing, but her lyrics get a little weird. But I like to joke about her album, I'm a girl. It's like Lady Gaga had a baby with Lennon. Is this person popular? I can't imagine she would be. Max saying, I'd love to leave America like all these stupid right wingers tell me to do, but because I've done right wingers all over the world, I can't do that. Alright, see you, Jose. Have fun. I completed Mario Odyssey. It's pretty decent. No, I never went back to it though. Nah, Izzy, I think you're quite a way off with the Iran stuff. In terms of World War III, I don't agree. But it could really set the region on fire. Like, it could not cause World War III, but cause a massive conflict. I did make a video about it. So I think you're not wrong in that it could really snowball and become a massive conflict. In terms of World War III, all the countries fighting each other, I don't think that would happen over that. But you never know. I think Taiwan and China is something that could snowball a lot bigger to an actual world war. Because if Iran was just Iran versus US and Israel, despite Russia and China being friends with Iran, I don't think it would turn into World War III. Personally. Do I think World War III could happen with both climate change? Well, I was saying about India and Pakistan, people think it'd be a limited nuclear conflict because if they started nuking each other, maybe like a limited nuclear strike, who would really get involved on either of their side? Who cares that much? So I'm not sure about that. It obviously changed the world if them two nuked each other. I still don't think they'd do it though. I think China invading Taiwan, because I don't think the US will respond if China did it in like 10 years time, but because they might respond, that is like the powder keg. Because are they actually going to fight over Taiwan, the US and China, and then does North Korea and South Korea start fighting? What do India and Pakistan do? What do Russia do? What did the British do? Japan? So that's the one for me. Whereas the Iran stuff would just be a giant mess. I think the Iran stuff would just really create a new wave of Islamic fundamentalism is the main problem. So I can find the Corbyn speech on the Labour Party's YouTube channel. Okay, I'll check it out later. All right, on that note, on the lovely optimistic note of World War III, I think I'll end this stream. I'll just read out Izzy's thing quick. I think it'd be interesting for a video. Do one, Cav. Eric, I don't know if you've seen it. I actually have done a video on the Taiwan stuff, like very, very detailed. I don't know how. Let me check how long it is. Like 6 months ago, maybe. 15 minutes. So it's quite extensive. So here is one. If you want to check it out. One. The Iran one. When did I do this? 20 minutes long. Oh, lovely. 20. So yeah, if you want to check them out, I did make bigger videos on them. There we go. All right. Good night, Sarah. Good night, Izzy as well. Yeah, Eric. No problem. Thanks for all coming. It's been a good one. Getting more viewers and getting some new people in, because Eric, I've noticed you're a new person. A couple others have been new as well, but it's got some of the classics like well, Duke of Blunt changed his name. I don't remember what his old name was now, but I know you're an old one. Red Leader is relatively new. It's over, yeah, sorry. But yeah, thank you everyone for staying this long. I appreciate it. Try and get 2 videos out this week, and then try and do this stream again on Sunday. Oh, it's over, yeah. But yeah, appreciate all your comments, appreciate the support, and yeah, everyone have a good week. Hopefully see you all again, and remember, notifications on, and check my community post on a Sunday evening just to check if I'm doing the stream, because I always write there. Yeah, thank you, Izzy, for putting your stream on. All right then,